She was raised as a sacrifice to an evil dragon, but she ends up taming it and tries to defeat the demon lord. Ryuko was a young girl with an unfortunate life as she lost her parents to a cruel fate when she was very young. From then on, the villagers took care of her, but they had some other intentions as they wanted to sacrifice her to a dragon who lived in the caves so that they can defeat the demon lord. One day, she went to a cave and prayed to the great evil dragon for help as the demon lord was wreaking havoc in the area. In return, she offered to sacrifice her life, but the dragon was not what she expected. It refused her offering and revealed that it was a herbivore and hence couldn't eat her. Ryuko didn't understand and started doubting her meat quality level and asked the dragon to have a taste test. The dragon refused to have a bite and repeats that it's neither evil nor a carnivore, pointing to a bush of plants, saying that's what it eats. When she gets up and leaves, the dragon thinks that it escaped her, but instead she created a bed of leaves and laid herself on it. The dragon was shocked at her stupidity and wonders how it got such a reputation of greatness. He was more than 5,000 years and still he was very timid, scared easily even by a rabbit. He lets out a sigh and asks her to get up. He tells her that he can be of no help and the only thing special about him is his age, and asks her to go back to her parents. This causes her to be sad, and she reveals that she is an orphan, sent away by the villagers as an offering to him. She then pulls a knife from her sleeves and tells him that if he doesn't eat her flesh, she will offer her soul instead. The dragon starts to panic and tells her to put the knife away, saying that he can't deal with her body. She misunderstands this once again and offers to dig a grave for herself. He observes her and senses that she has traces of magic inside her, and if she was not fated to be a sacrifice, then she would have become a great wizard. She starts chanting once again about dying, and he starts pacing around, confused as to what to do with this silly girl. He tries to trick her by saying that it has already devoured her soul and asks her to go back home. While he explains the situation to the villagers, she is shocked that he ate her soul without killing her, and comes to a conclusion that she has to become the dragon's disciple. The dragon has had enough of her nonsense that he asks her to climb on his back so that he can take her to her village. As they make their way to the village with Ryuko on his back, the dragon wishes that the animals were not afraid of him, and that the villagers would give a warm welcome. However, when they arrive, everyone is scared to see them and keep their weapons ready. The dragon thinks to himself that he must look scary and asks an old man who prepared Ryuko as his sacrifice. The villagers get worried that the sacrifice was not to the dragon's liking, but he tells them that the little girl is still alive and that he devoured her soul. He warns the villagers to not bring any other sacrifice, as he doesn't want to contaminate his taste. The villagers agree, scared, and he thinks back to her being sad because she was an orphan. He puts her down on the ground and tells them not to harm her and treat her well. He then tells them that he will take into consideration about defeating the demon lord, but in reality he is just planning to go back to his hole and hide there for a few centuries till everyone forgets about his promise. Just then a little boy throws a stone at the dragon, accusing him of devouring Ryuko's soul, and he was about to cry in pain but remembers to act fierce. Thankfully, the villagers stop the boy and apologize instead of him. Ryuko goes to the kid and tells him that she is now the dragon's disciple, and that he should not trouble her master, otherwise she would end his life. The dragon is surprised that she is making such bold claims, but she insists on being the one to stop anyone from offending him. The boy begs the dragon to give back her soul, saying that he was the one who was meant to be the sacrifice. One of the villagers asks him to shut his mouth and blabbers that he is the heir of the village and Ryuko was a substitute. The dragon just stares at this whole affair in shock, while the kid continues to cry guilty that Ryuko was made the sacrifice instead of him. The dragon was about to leave, knowing that the kid will protect her, when a guy rings an alarm saying that monsters are approaching their village. A group of wolves has entered the village, and they are known as the Dark Wolves because they can clone themselves from their shadows. The dragon is scared to death, but the villagers encourage him to finish the wolves, saying that it should be a piece of cake for him. He tries to act fierce and steps ahead, warning the wolves. However, they simply show their fangs and approach him slowly. Just then, Ryuko gets on his back and draws her knife, ready to teach the wolves a lesson. Magic swirls around her as she gets determined, and a wolf charges at her. She simply ends it with her knife and declares dragon should not bother with such lowly creatures, instead let her handle them. She then goes to finish off the wolves, while the dragon stares at dumbstruck that she has so much magic inside, something he only saw a handful in his 5,000 years of life. She jumps in the air, and with one strike ends the remaining wolves and leaves a giant crack in the ground. She then turns around and thanks the dragon for lending his power, as if he did anything. He simply stands there, too shocked to respond to her, and the villagers celebrate their victory. Sometime after, the dragon goes to questioning an old man on his son's whereabouts. The old man apologizes instead of his son for not being present, but the dragon tells him that he is not going to harm his son and just wants to chat. This was the kid who was concerned about Ryuko's soul, and he knew that if she was with him, then she will be safe. So, he decides to tell the boy the whole truth, hoping that he would understand and protect. But obviously he doesn't believe a single thing the dragon said, let alone the fact that Ryuko used magic. He then scolds the dragon for lying and pawning off his responsibility to him, instead of opposing the Demon King. Ryuko takes out her knife and threatens to end his life for being rude to the dragon. He tells her not to be rash and asks if she was close to that boy before. She denies, saying that he was the one who tried to get her out of the village, and even gave her clothes, and no matter how much time she returned to the village he would take the punishment instead of her. This she misunderstands for him trying to steal her position of being the sacrifice and threatens his face once again with her knife, but all he did was care for her. The situation was so pathetic that even the dragon felt some sympathy for the little kid. Ryuko then turns to him and declares that they have been wasting and should get to the demon lair soon. The little boy tells her to not be fall for the dragon's tricks and promises to save her in the future. The dragon call believe what's happening. He is being accused as if he was evil and had kidnapped Ryuko. She, however, doesn't care one bit for the kid's feeling and tells the dragon that they should raid his house before leaving the village. The dragon is taken aback by her declaration, but she simply steals the clothes he made for her and wears it. This makes the boy happy, and he tells her that the clothes are blessed with some kind of witchcraft that should keep her safe from the dragon. In reality, it's the dragon who needs protection from her, not the other way round. She then gets on the back of the dragon and tells the kid that she is now leaving to defeat the Demon King with the help of the dragon. She then urges the dragon to fly, saying some nonsense about how full moon is when he is at his full power. He can't believe the crap he is throwing at her and tells her that he actually can't fly. But that all changes when magic seeps out of her and lifts them in the air. The dragon can't believe that they are flying and screams for his dear life. However, she sits calmly on his back and flies in the direction of the Demon King's lair, and it's looking like the real sacrifice is the dragon and not Ryuko. The dragon tries to suggest that they should not attack the Demon King right away, as he has to be updated on what happened in the 5,000 years that he was away. He tells her to take her to a town where they can find warriors to build an army against the Demon King. She believes him and agrees to take them there. She then uses her magic and light stars shooting out of her eyes as she spots for a town that suits their purpose. She quickly spots a town nearby and decides that they head. She then talks about the town's unfair market price, people forming their own guilds, etc., as if the dragon cared for any of this. As they go near the town, they observe smoke rising from it, and as she points at the town, the dragon starts to think that this is the best place for him to leave her. However, his hopes all go to drain as they get closer, and he sees the place resembling hell, with monsters attacking the people. Some weird-looking bird creatures were attacking a man, and when he sees them he mistakes that the dragon has come to attack as well. He then asks everyone to attack the dragon, and as their attacks get closer the dragon fears for his dear life. But Ryuko once again intervenes and sends some badass magic out of her eyes and ends the attacks, by redirecting all the magic from her mouth. The people look at the dragon and mistakes him for the magic, deciding that he must be equal in power to the Demon Lord. Ryuko calls the men foolish and tells them that the dragon doesn't wish to harm the humankind. The dragon, although grateful that she saved her, can't help but get upset how she is going around painting him as some fierce evil dragon when in reality he is a timid herbivore. A girl with long red hair comes forward and apologizes instead of her men for trying to attack them. She is Leah, the city general, and she asks for their help to save the city. For once, the dragon thinks he has a chance of making this woman believe him. But Ryuko crushes his hope once again and tells her that what she witnesses now was just the tip of the iceberg of the dragon's infinite powers. The woman tells her that she can imagine the dragon's power, as she, even after becoming his disciple only recently, was already so powerful. Ryuko asks her how she knows this, and she tells her that although her magic was so powerful, she didn't have a great control. Leah then asks their help once again, and the dragon decides to give in and tells Ryuko that they should help. Leah points out to the bird monster and tells that they have been attacking the city and their bones come out of corpses and turn into self-regenerating skeleton monsters. They are too great in number, and so far the people have been able to keep them away with only fire. She then turns to the dragon and asks him to wipe out these ugly birds like he did some moments ago. The dragon is of course shocked and thinks back to what he actually did. He then turns to Ryuko and tells her that she should do this job as it might prove to be a good training for her. She agrees and flies in the air as black magic wings comes out of her back. She immediately starts attacking the creatures one by one, and Dragon thinks to itself that she is scarier than any monster. He asks Leah if there is a leader who controls these skeletons and reveals that 1000s of years ago he saw the Demon King's army invading the humans with a similar trick, and that she should look for a skull monster, who might be in a high place away from here. Leah orders her men to search for this skull monster in all the high places, and Ryuko returns to him saying that she wiped out all the monsters like it's a no big deal. He tells her that her next mission is to take rest, while Leah and her men search for the skull monster. She happily goes to follow his order and falls asleep cuddled up to the dragon. Meanwhile, Leah's men have found the skull monster, and the dragon thinks that soon this town will be safe, and he could probably leave Ryuko here and go back to his laid-back life. As it starts to rain, Ryuko has nightmares and the dragon shields her from the rain with its tail. She mumbles in her sleep about her father, and the dragon looks at her in concern. Just then, Leah and a few of her men approach him and thank him for helping them solve this crisis. She tells him that she expected him to be violent and bloodthirsty, but he treated his disciple well. The dragon takes this chance to ask her for a favor and asks if he can leave Ryuko in this town. Leah quickly gets defensive and asks what he is scheming. The dragon denies it and tells her that Ryuko is not his disciple, explaining that she wiped out all the monsters by herself, and tells Leah that if Ryuko stayed here she will train and become a great wizard. Leah of course doesn't believe a word that he said. However, she agrees to house Ryuko in their town anyway. She then asks him why he is betraying the Demon King by going against him. He tells her that he is not, and that he is just a useless vegan dragon, that's all. He tells her everything that happened so far, and once again, no one believes him. She blames him for pawning off his responsibility to a little girl such as Ryuko and trying to escape. She further reasons that a girl like her can't use so much magic, as it would be against the nature's law. The dragon points to Ryuko and tells Leah that she is a divine child, but she simply nods her head, finding it hard to believe. Ryuko's magic, although beyond impressive, it's unnatural and hence can prove fatal to even herself. Leah believes that if that's the case, Ryuko's magic will consume herself and turn her into an evil dragon. She then asks him once again as to why he is betraying the demon lord and proceeds to take her sword. She then thrusts her sword to the ground and declares herself as the loyal swordsman of the Demon King. She charges at him and the dragon closes his eyes, prepared to die, but Ryuko comes in between and stops her. She then apologizes to him for being asleep and offers to hand Leah's head as a present. They start attacking one another, and Leah smirks at Ryuko's move, knowing how little experience she has. She then appears before her and strikes. Ryuko stops her with some difficulty, and Leah tells her to give up, as she had used her magic earlier and hence weak. However, Ryuko escapes her grasp and attacks her with determination. She keeps on striking at her, but Leah is able to fend off her attacks easily. The dragon stands there shocked that she is winning and fears for his life. The dragon realizes that Ryuko is going to lose, as Leah can predict her moves and is much stronger than her in sword fight. Leah decides to go on the offensive, and Ryuko is having a hard time against her. She forces her to jump in the air, and the dragon realizes that Leah is planning to take this chance to strike back. Ryuko is hit on her back and falls to the ground, screaming. The dragon is worried about her and tries to wake her, but Leah approaches him and challenges him to fight her. With one strikes, she shoves her sword through his body, and he falls to the ground. He thinks he is going to die and starts screaming, but nothing happens, and there are no wounds. She tells him that her sword is special in that it will make their opponents experience pain without any wounds, and hence they can suffer infinitely more. She strikes him one more, and he falls to the ground once again, experiencing incredible pain. He begs her to use a normal sword, but she simply refuses. The dragon suddenly remembers about Ryuko and wonders how she is doing after Leah's attack, but she is still lying on the ground unconscious. Leah continues to torture him, and he starts jumping around in pain. The townspeople mistake this for the dragon to be having fun with Leah. After a while, she stops attacking the dragon and accepts that the dragon was telling the truth about him being weak. She apologizes for going rough on him, saying that she was only testing. He shouts at her for taking her tests to the extreme and goes to take care of Ryuko. Leah apologizes once again and tells him that the sword doesn't cause any physical harm, just pain, so she should be okay soon. The dragons ask her if she is with the Demon King, and she waves her hand saying that it was a lie too, all part of her test. He lets out a sigh, and she warns him not to call himself in front of otherwise he will have a bounty on his head. He asks her if anything can be done regarding, and she tells him that there is not, but then goes to whisper something in his ears. She then leaves, saying that he should tell Ryuko when she wakes up that the fight was all a dream. It's almost the next day and Leah tells him that he is too big, putting down a barrel containing some rejuvenating water, but it looks more like a sludge than anything. She then forcefully opens his mouth and shoves the whole thing inside him. He shrinks in size, and when Ryuko wakes up in the morning, she screams upon seeing him. She demands to know why he shrunk in size, and he comes with a lame excuse, saying that he became small so that he can see people better without having to look down. Instead of scolding him for being a terrible liar, she believes everything that he said like an idiot. Later, they leave the town, and he tells her that the fight between Leah was just a dream, and she believes that as well. She tells him that if Leah was really rude to him, then she would take revenge on her. Just then, the little blonde boy comes to the town and demands to know where Ryuko and the dragon is. But one of the townsmen hands him a slab of wood and puts him to work. Suddenly, a nearby building cracks and a huge concrete block was about to fall on the blondie, but Leah comes just in time to rescue him. She stops the concrete from falling on him, with just one, and he starts shaking in fear. She then throws off the concrete with ease and warns him to be careful. She orders her men to check the town for any more loose concrete blocks, and the men get to work discussing how powerful she is. When Blondie overhears them saying that she fought equally with the dragon, he falls to his knees and begs her to take him as a disciple, so that he can defeat the dragon and save Ryuko. She asks him to get up and tells him that her trainings are hard. Soon enough, she puts him to work and makes him her carriage with her inside. She takes out a whip and orders him to move fast, but he collapses on the ground in exhaustion. So, they gives him the ugliest liquid, calling it a medicine that would recover his strength, and forces him to drink that stuff. Meanwhile, Ryuko and the dragon are going through a village. She is happily walking while he tries to keep up with her, too tired to go any further. He sits down and asks that they take a break, but she once again misunderstands the situation and tells him that they need not break for her sake. Just then a rabbit comes by eating grass, and he remembers how hungry he is. Ryuko is once again serious and offers to make a barbecue out of this rabbit and pulls out her sword in style. He tells her that he doesn't want the rabbit, and she asks if he would rather continue devouring her soul. He thinks back to what Leah said about keeping Ryuko in the dark about his weakness and starts crying that he is going to be hungry for a long as he can't reveal that he himself is a herbivore. Just then, 3 creepy-looking dudes arrive and comment on Ryuko's dress. They pan to steal her clothes and sell the dragon for a high price. Ryuko asks the dragon if she should take care of them, and he tells her to wait, saying that if they attack now then he can't make peace with the humankind. The men circle her, eyeing her jewelry and clothes. The dragon asks them to stay away, but the men simply laugh at him. Ryuko is tearing at the men waiting for the dragon's order, as the men continue to mock them. They argue on what to do with the dragon's body and where to sell it. They start fighting with each, and the dragon wishes that he would be eating delicious plants right now. The leader of the men hits his 2 teammates and asks them to be quiet. He orders his men to take Ryuko with them for now till they find a suitable buyer and approaches her. She clenches her fist and the dragon tells her that she can take care of these men, just not go to the extreme. She immediately uses her magic and the men stare at her in shock as just touches their leader with a finger to send him flying across for miles. The other 2 men run away, not wanting to experience the same fate. Afterward, they all travel together with the men carrying their leader, and as they go ahead the men apologize to the dragon for not realizing his and Ryuko's powers. He orders the men to take them to the cave they have been hiding in, and when they reach the cave entrance, the dragon is shocked by its appearance. But the men to point to rusty gates saying that it's the entrance to the cave, and the cave that he is looking right now may be beautiful, but is very evil. He calls Ryuko and tells her to bring the captives in that cave to the nearest town and hand these robbers to the city guards. The men quickly apologize and promises to not trouble anyone from now on. She asks the dragon if he is coming with her, but he tells her that she should be the one escorting the captives and that it's part of her training. She accepts the mission and tells him that she will be back by tomorrow. As she leaves with the rest, the dragon lets out a sigh of relief and jumps in happiness as he can now eat his plants in peace. He excitedly walks around the cave, thinking that he is going to find plenty of plants to eat, but then accidentally falls into a hole. He opens his eyes only to find corpses and skeleton of a giant beast. He hides in fear and curses his luck. Just then, he hears a noise calling out to his presence and turns back to see black mist taking into shape. It starts talking, and the dragon cries for Ryuko's help. The mist turns into a human-like form with a cloak and expresses how glad it is to finally meet a living creature. It approaches the dragon like a zombie, and he starts running for his precious vegan life. As he runs, booby traps activates and metal spikes comes out of the ground. He stands back in shock, and the mist creature places his hand on him, asking him to not run. He closes his eyes in fear, but the mist guy warns him to be careful as there are traps everywhere, and proceeds to check the metal spikes. He deactivates the traps and turns back to the dragon, offering an apple. The dragon gets overwhelmed with emotions and accepts the apple gratefully. Before he knew, he is having a feast of vegan foods and is eating to his heart's content. He apologizes to Mist Guy for thinking him to be a bad person. Suddenly, Mist Guy looks up and alerts him to the presence of someone above. But the dragon tells him that it must be Ryuko. However, the Mist Guy tells that it's not human and someone dangerous is above. The dragon simply doesn't care and continues to eat like a greedy pig, saying that it must be some bandits. Mist Guy mumbles about losing some treasure and no one visiting him after that. The dragon asks if he can't go anywhere else, and Mist Guy tells that he can't. He then points to a cave art, and the dragon realizes that the Mist Guy is actually the god of hunting. He reads the inscription of how the god of hunting came to Earth and taught mankind to provide for themselves. But when people finally became masters of hunting, they had forgotten their god. He tells the dragon that he can only leave this cave when he teaches others to hunt. He starts crying, saying that he wants to go but no one needs him. The dragon takes pity on the god and sheepishly asks if he can teach him hunting, so that he can get out of this place. The god immediately hugs him, saying that he was waiting for the dragon to say that, and now he wonders if he was set up by the god. They finally get out, and the god starts laughing like a maniac, saying that they should start learning immediately. The dragon wonders if he made a mistake for taking pity on the god and asks him to delay the training. However, the god gets serious and tells him that hunting is a serious affair and that he will teach him in 3 hours. The dragon tells him that he is a useless vegan, and that many people tried teaching various things but only failed. The god tells him that it's not his fault but his previous masters. He then summons a whip, determined to teach the dragon some hunting. He tells that their first lesson is physical training, and the dragon is already starting to have a bad feeling about this. The god orders him to lie down and do 200 sit-ups. The dragon falls back on the ground and simply rolls over and comes to sitting position and repeating the same. The dragon gave a whole new meaning to sit-ups, and the god is furious with him. The god is shocked that he can't lie down properly, and the dragon complains that it's because of his body. The god is shocked that his teaching method is not effective with the dragon and starts to blabber. He then decides that they will go to the second lesson, balance training, saying that it's important for a hunter's success. He orders the dragon to cross a narrow bride, made out of a single rock, and as the dragon steps on it, it slowly starts to crack, making the dragon worried. The god becomes strict and asks him to continue no matter what, and when he tries to cross the bridge scared of the god's whip, he breaks the log and falls under, hurting his back. The god comes to him and wonders how this is possible, as this bridge has never fallen off before. The dragon tells him that it's because he is heavier than humans, and the god repairs the bridge with his magic, saying that they will try once again, till they succeed. The dragon tries it for n number of times, and each time he breaks the bridge and falls under, crying for Ryuko's help. Meanwhile, Ryuko's is deep inside a forest and thinks that she heard the dragon's roar. She concludes that the dragon's great aura has simply traveled this far and gets on top of a carriage with captives, and the bandits pulling it. At the meantime, the god is teaching the dragon archery, and he fails that as well. Next they try pulls up and once again the dragon fails miserably. They try making traps, combat training, and he fails all of that as expected, making the god scream in frustration. He tells the dragon that he is going to use his trump card. He then reveals that it is for the dragon to dodge obstacles. The god has set up the ropes higher considering the dragon's size and attached explosive that will activate upon contact. The dragon get under the obstacle, having no other choice, when his heart starts thumping fast. The rejuvenation potion's effect has gone, and he slowly starts to grow into his actual size, making contact with obstacles and activating the explosives. It's almost night now, and the god falls to his knees, shocked that he has failed in teaching the dragon to hunt. He can't believe this, as his teaching has never failed before. The dragon tells him that his teaching methods are not suitable for me and moreover he is simply useless. The god still doesn't give up and tells him there are no bad apprentices, just bad masters. He starts blaming himself, failing to teach the dragon, and how this has never happened before. The god then goes to the dragon and covers his hands in black mist. The dragon tries to shake it off, but the god tells him to try gathering strength now. Something happens as the dragon lifts his claws and the black mist disappears. The god turns back and tells him that he has now learned it. The dragon has no clues as to what he learned, but the god tells him that he has now become stronger than before, and that there is no student he has failed to teach. The god then disappears into thin air, warning him not mention this event with anyone else. The dragon collapses on the ground, tired, wondering what Ryuko is doing right now. He falls asleep with his back to a tree, and the next morning she is there to greet him. He is so glad that she is back and starts crying. He tells her that he won't make her leave him again, and she asks if something happened when she was not there. He tells her that it's nothing. She tells him that she has something to report. There is a city nearby, and it's only protected by a moat. She then tells him that he should control this city before it falls in the hands of the Demon King. He tries to refuse, but she gets on his back and declares that they leave to the city right away. They travel across the forest and finally come close to the city. The dragon happily looks across, wondering how many tasty plants he can eat, when Ryuko gives her sinister look, asking him to take over the city immediately. He tells her that they are not going to fight, and she accepts it immediately, saying the great dragon like him should not to do such lowly tasks. They go inside the city casually, and the dragon wonders why the city isn't protected. However, she turns on her magic eyes and observes that is in fact a protective barrier around the city. She then tells him that there is someone in the city, a saint of water, who put up this barrier. Just then, the dragon hears a voice in his head asking him to leave the city, and he wonders if this is the saint that she was talking about. He talks in his mind that he just wants to rest in this city with Ryuko, but the voice tells him that she doesn't believe him. She thinks that he's pretending to be weak, and he pleads with her that it's not true. She threatens him to leave, but then starts screaming as if someone came to threaten her instead. Suddenly, the dragon can see the city's barrier magic, and observes Ryuko dipping her hands in water. She takes her hand out of the river and tells him that they can go ahead, as she had removed the barrier. He asks her what she did to the Saint of Water, and she gives an innocent smile, saying that she scared the saint by mixing a little of his magic in the water. She tells him how exactly she scared the saint by and made her run for her life. She laughs evilly, saying that she knew the dragon would go after the one who created the barrier instead of destroying, so she did the same. After that, they happily go to the city square, and the dragon thinks to himself that he should later apologize to the saint. As they walk by, people stare at them weirdly, and she asks him if she should finish them. He gets terrified by this and tells her not to pick fights. He then tells that he must disguise and asks her to pretend with him. He then starts jumping around like a monkey, and she announces that they are from the circus. She doesn't want to do this nonsense, but the dragon convinced her to do, saying that disguise is an important part of training, when in reality he wanted to show the people here that he is harmless. The villagers believe their act and starts discussing festivals and shows. The dragon continues his monkey dance while the people talk about them being harmless as the saint have let them into the city. When everyone leaves to do their work, a thick guy comes to them and offers to show around the city. He shows them a statue of a deity and tells them about the city's history. Long time ago, this city was like a desert, but it was then that Water Saint came to this place and blessed them with water, making the land fertile. So every year they held a festival to celebrate her arrival. Ryuko tells him that his great saint was just run away scared from her, but the dragon covers her mouth and tells him that she was just joking and asks him if there is any hotel around. The guy agrees to take them. When he realized that the dragon talked, however, he simply convinces the guy that imitating like human was part of the circus trick. The idiot believes him and takes them to a hotel. Inside, he tells Ryuko that he is going for a walk and asks her to take rest meanwhile. He then heads out to find the saint and apologize. He goes around asking people for the saint, but till now no one knows where she went. She is actually hiding in a cup of water in some tavern. She is sure that if the dragon finds her, he will kill her and plans to stay in hiding till he leaves the city. However, she gets the shock of her life when the dragon comes to the tavern saying that he found it. But he meant he finally found a place to get water since he was so thirsty from all the drinking. He finds the containing the saint, unaware that she is hiding in it and was about to grab it. She thinks that he used his incredible powers to find her and is now going to kill her. So she slowly moves the cup and makes it fall from the table. and he shouts in shock that it fell off without him even touching. She runs away from there and hides somewhere else, thinking that the dragon is coming to end her life. Sometime later, the dragon comes to her location where she is hiding in a tub of water, but he actually came here because he was thirsty. However, she once again thinks that he was here for her and disappears when reaches inside the tub. This continues for some time. He's reaching for places of water because he was thirsty, and she running away every time because she thinks he is after her. It's evening now, and the dragon still didn't drink a drop of water and goes to the river, not caring if the saint tries to attack him. Just then, a group of kids arrives and gets excited to see him. They have heard about the talking dragon and came here to see him talk. He turns to them and observes that they are of Ryuko's age. Just then, his stomach growls and a little girl asks if he is hungry. She gives him an apple, and he starts to cry by her sweet gesture, opening his mouth to eat it. The water saint watches this from the river and mistakes that he is about to eat the kids. She finally appears before him and steps in between, saying that she won't run away this time and that he must not harm the children. One of the kids pulls down her sleeve and tells that the dragon is innocent, and he tells her that it's true. He explains that he is a poor vegan dragon and asks if he can now eat. The saint thinks that he is referring to the girl and continues to block his path. She then asks the kids to leave, and they wave him goodbye before leaving. He watches them sadly, upset that he didn't get to eat even an apple. The water saint tells him that he won't be able to blackmail, and he looks confused when he did that. He tells her that he has no intending of harming anyone and just wants to go back to his hotel. She lets a sigh of relief and asks him to follow her. On the way, he tells her that he has no intention of harming her. When he calls her saint, she tries to deny it, saying that she is only a normal girl. By the time they reach the hotel, it's night, and he thanks her for her help, but she tells him to not harm anyone, otherwise she will complain to the water saint, as if she isn't one. He tells her that she would fix the barrier immediately, and she runs away to do just that, forgetting her act. As she leaves, she compares that her acting skills are just as worse as Ryuko's. Suddenly, his stomach growls once again, and he heads back to the hotel to eat something. But when he goes to his room, he finds Ryuko and the ground with magic surrounding her. He asks her what she is doing, and she tells him that she stayed here obediently, just like he had asked. However, she tells him that she hasn't reached the obedient level, and he wonders what the hell she is talking about. He mentions that there are kids around her age in this city, and that she should play with them. She immediately gets upset, thinking that the dragon is punishing her for not perfecting the obedient level. She then talks about the water saint and calls her a demon who can manipulate water and mud. She asks why people worship her as a god, and the dragon tells her that it's similar to how she worships him as a great evil dragon. He then lies on the floor, saying that they should sleep now. They turn off the lights and goes to sleep, and Ryuko, instead of sleeping on the bed, comes down and lies on him. He asks her to go to bed, but she tells him that she won't cause the bed is higher, and she doesn't want to be above her master. The next day, the dragon wakes up to a waitress knocking on the door for breakfast. He lets out a huge yawn, and Ryuko gets up as well. Suddenly, the door to their room opens, and the saint comes in a maid costume. Ryuko gets up quickly and pins her to the ground, threatening her for disturbing the dragon's sleep. He tells her to not harm her, and she agrees reluctantly. Ryuko asks her what she is scheming, and she tells her that she simply wanted to bring breakfast. She then tries to get them to leave the city by saying that the weather is perfect for traveling. She denies it, saying that she was only joking and that she is a normal hotel servant. The dragon can't believe at her pathetic acting skills and wonders if the saint didn't realize how much water spilled out of her when Ryuko attacked her and how she shrunk in size, both of which is not possible for a human. She urges them to quickly eat their breakfast and leave the town soon. She shows what she bought for breakfast: rotten and leftover veggies from the garbage. Ryuko gets angry at this and shoves her to the ground, knocking some of the plates. The saint runs away scared, and the dragon gets upset that they lost her this soon when he didn't get to apologize to her. Ryuko tells him how offended she got when the saint insulted him, and he tells her that everyone should act according to their nature and power. He tells her that as his disciple, she should only use her power when needed and not for useless fights. He then points to the rotten veggies and tells her that one must never take out their anger nor waste it. He tells her that until she understands and learns this, She should only use magic when absolutely needed. She looks down in shame, and he wonders if he was too harsh on her. She apologizes to him and calls herself not worthy of being his disciple. He comforts her and tells her that he is grateful for having her as his disciple. He then encourages her that she will learn more as she grows older. He then reminds her of the kids and tells her to play with them, saying it important for her to learn humans' custom. She quickly agrees and takes this as a mission, while he tries to tell her to be not serious all the time. She then leaves waving goodbye, and the dragon asks her to have fun before going to his secret mission of finding the water saint. He accidentally steps on a puddle of water and golden lights comes out of it as he takes his legs out. The water then grabs him into it, pulling inside to another dimension. Ryuko senses that the dragon's aura has disappeared and was about to head back to see the dragon when see the kids and decides to fulfill her mission first. The kids come to her calling her a cute animal trainer and asks where her cute dragon is. This annoys her, and they continue to question about the dragon, making a game of who finds the dragon first. They ask her if she wants to play with them, and she is lost deep in thought, wondering if there is any dragon besides her dragon who is weak and plays with children. She becomes determined and decides to win this kid's game. Meanwhile, the dragon is drowning in the river because of the water saint pulling him down. He tells him that she is going to protect the city by drowning him, even if it means sacrificing her life. At the city square, Ryuko is playing with the kids when suddenly a massive gray dragon appears, scaring everyone around. It tells the people to prepare for their end, saying that it's their punishment for not joining the demon army. Ryuko notices this dragon and thinks that this is the cute pet dragon the kids were talking about and calls it to play with her. The dragon tells her to get lost, but she catches him by its tail and calls to play once again. It wonders what's wrong with her, and seeing this, the people start wondering if it's a pet dragon. This annoys the dragon, and it declares to everyone that it is a noble creature. The dragon then turns back to her and tells her that it will accept her challenge. It starts to activate its magic, announcing that it shall teach these humans a lesson for mocking it. Its whole body glows in its magic, but suddenly it's been lifted to the sky by Ryuko. It gets embarrassed and asks her to put it down, but she simply asks if it wants to play ball with her. She throws it to the ground and tells that it's an unbouncy ball. It gets up in the air angry with her, and opens his mouth wide, gathering shockwaves to destroy this whole city. Everyone starts running away in fear as it is about to send its attack. Ryuko appears before it and asks if it likes to play in the air. She then grabs its tail and spins it around, and then throwing it to the ground. The dragon thinks that something is wrong with her as she continues to tell that it's not bouncy. She grabs it by its tail once again, and it starts to cry for help. She has fun throwing it here and there like a volleyball. Meanwhile, the water saint is still trying to drown our herbivore dragon, when she feels the shockwaves coming from Ryuko tossing the gray dragon. She tries so hard to control her breath so that she can keep the dragon in her bubble and drown him, but she is unable to hold her breath and lets go because of the shockwaves. They both fall from high up in the sky, and the dragon tries to grab onto something when black substance comes out of his claws and transforms to a huge bouncy ball. The dragon lands safely on it, and it has transformed to a duck shape. The magic seemed to have come from his own claw, and as he was wondering about it, the water saint comes at him with a big wave, accusing him of hiding a swim wave. The dragon doesn't understand what she is saying and tries to swim away on his black duck. The black substance suddenly transforms to a balloon and lifts him up away from the water. She scolds him for fighting unfair and asks him to come down, and he suddenly realizes that there was supposed to be a water demon in the Demon King's army and realizes that she is the one. When he asks her that, she gets emotional and tells that she did everything to protect the city, and yet he is not letting her go simply because she is a demon. The dragon wonders why she is blabbering this much, and she tells him that she is going to bind him here even if she can't defeat him. She uses her magic, creating whirlpools to trap the dragon in one place, forming an orbit around him so that he can't escape. The water starts to choke him, and he wishes that his claw will change form now and save him. However, his claw turns to a speaker, and he hears the hunter god's voice saying that he can't rely on him for help always. He begs his master to help, but he tells him to calm down and that he already helped twice. He tells him that he gave this black nebula so that he can protect himself with it. Even then, he had failed, making him step in. He tells the dragon that he can only help pupils twice, and that is already over. He was about to offer some advice, but she attacks it, and he is unable to hear it properly. Just then he starts to grow bigger, and he remembers that he ate the ugly stuff that Leah gave earlier, and its effect must have worn off now. The water jail starts to break, and they both get thrown off from the water by its impact. After getting up, she starts to cry, saying that a demon like her is unable to protect this city. She then begs for him to spare the city, even if it meant her returning to the Demon King army. He tells her that she's having to be a demon has got nothing to do with her desire to protect the city and help its people. He then asks her to believe that he is a vegan dragon. She wipes off her tears and accepts his deal. She then leaves to fix the mess she has created and suddenly stops. He notices an insect on her head, and the dragon recognizes it to be a low-level demon. He was about to flick it away when he realizes that the city's barrier would have kept low-level demons away. Suddenly, a black aura starts coming from her, and when the dragon tries to check if she is okay, she covers her ears. She sees a skull-like thing floating next to her, and it whispers in her ears if she wants to keep hiding and asks her to show her true self. She starts to see nightmares of her past and gets possessed by that thing. She becomes evil and manipulates the ground and water, making it muddy and covering the whole town square. She rises on tip and declares that she is going to throw mankind into desperation by drowning them in this swamp. The dragon tries to walk towards her, asking if everything is okay as she was fine just a few moments ago. He begs her to stop this, but falls inside her muddy waters. She tells him that she is going to bring doom upon humanity by destroying this city, and the dragon wonders what happened to bring this sudden change in her. She sends the muddy water wave to drown the standing people nearby, but instead of being afraid, they start to cheer and dance around. They start admiring the mud, for it is a great fertile soul, and thinks that she is actually helping them. She and the dragon stare at the people as if they had gone crazy. They start playing it as if it is snow, dancing around, mud fighting, etc. Seeing their laid-back attitude only angers her further, and she gathers more water into a gigantic ball and is about to toss to end them all with it. But Ryuko senses the situation coming to the rescue by coming right in between, kicking it right through it and breaking it off. The mud splashes everywhere, and the people start having fun dancing to Muddy Rains. She kneels before the dragon and offers her services. The dragon shakes off the mud from his face and asks her if she realized what she did. She doesn't seem to have a clue that she saved everyone just then. She reports to the dragon that, as he ordered, she played with children a game of Seek the Dragon using a gray pet dragon and came here as soon as she heard him call her name. He tells her that she did a good job and starts searching for the saint, who is sitting among her pool of mud and is crying. The dragon asks the saint to tell them what's troubling her. She wipes off her tears and tells them that a few centuries back, when she joined the Demon King's army, all the dragons and demons in the army made fun of her, calling her a weakling. She left the army and saw a group of people walking across the deserted island in thirst, looking for water. At first, she thought that if she ends these people, then the other demons will accept her and go before the people. She asked how dare they invade her land and summoned a huge wave of water to drown them. But instead of being terrified, they started celebrating for finding water. So, she decided that she will drown them with mud next. But the villagers got excited again that they now have fertile soil to grow crops. They kneeled before her and thanked her for giving them hope. They called her saint and asked if they could live in her lands. From then on, the people started living here and made this city, erecting a statue in her honor. She starts crying that she is a demon, but she didn't do even that job well. The dragon sympathizes with her, understanding how she must have felt torn between her two identities. He observes that her basic nature isn't evil and hence will become friendly once again. Just then, a little girl comes from behind and points a finger at him, asking why he had grown big since they last saw. She then sees the saint crying and goes to her. She tells her not to be sad as she brought fertile soil to the people once again. Hearing this makes the saint extremely happy and sees the little girl leaving to play with other kids. She then starts crying again, thinking that the people are making fun of her and is probably being sarcastic. Ryuko goes to her and demands that since she realized this, she must hand over the city to the dragon now. He sighs and asks the saint to ignore what she just said. He gives her advice that it doesn't matter who she was, and what matters is who she wants to be. She then gently pats her head and asks if she wants to save the city or destroy it if she had the option. Ryuko gets jealous that he is paying attention to her, and she tells him that she would much rather save the city. The skull demon possessed inside her calls her useless and wonders if it should possess the dragon instead. Suddenly, the dragon feels something entering his body and starts to hear noises inside his head. The voice tells him to stop pretending and let the darkness inside him out. He turns back and sees a kid playing, mimicking a villain, and thinks that the voice belonged to one of the kids. The kids start playing around and Ryuko watches them smugly. The dragon thinks that he must be hearing voices because of his old age and stress. Ryuko tells him that she finally understood why he wanted her to play with the kids, saying that he wanted her to learn by herself the humans of this town and calls this city unfit for the dragon. He is glad that for now she won't pressurize him to conquer this city. She tells them that they should leave the city soon, and for once he felt like staying. But they had already caused them too much trouble, and he felt like the saint don't need his advice anymore. He tells Ryuko that they will sneak out of this city at once, and they start marching to exit the city. As they leave, the saint comes up to them and demands that they stay in the city till the festival gets over. She tells that the kids will be excited if they stay. She pleads with them to stay, as she didn't want the people of this city to be sad. Ryuko was about to decline rudely, but he covers her mouth quickly and tells her that they are staying. Hearing this, the saint gets excited, waves them goodbye and leaves. Meanwhile, the skull demon is moving inside the dragon's body, searching for his inner darkness. He is amazed that he could find any till now, but is confident that he can find something soon enough since they are not leaving the city. Elsewhere in the city, the Grey Dragon is having an identity crisis, wanting to be a ferocious dragon, but he would much rather be a pet dragon if it means that Ryuko doesn't hurt him badly in the name of playing. Meanwhile, Leah is making the blonde drag a huge boulder in the name of training, while she stands on top of it. She suddenly tells him to stop when she sees people observing the town notice board. She tells him to stop and follow her as she goes to take a look. She sees a report of a dragon in the nearby city, and the blondie starts yelling that it's the evil dragon he told her. She looks at the drawing of the dragon carefully and thinks that it's a different dragon. She leaves, saying to the blondie to be more observant. He gets defensive and tries to argue with her, but she tells him to be quiet and be reasonable, saying that he should focus on his training first. She orders him to pull the boulder across the city, and if not, no food for him that night. Meanwhile, at the festival, everyone is having a good time while Ryuko and the dragon are moving like zombies. Her stomach growls loudly when she sees such tasty food, and the dragon asks her to eat or buy whatever she likes. She immediately leaves, and his stomach starts growling as well. He wonders if it would be weird if he stands in line with the humans to get food. Just then he sees a shed for sheep, and that they are happily eating hay. He excitedly goes there to eat the grass, but the sheep have already eaten everything, and he cries in defeat. Just then, a kid from earlier comes with a bunch of grass and asks if he accidentally locked himself here. He eyes the grass excitedly, and the kid gives it to him. He happily starts eating the grass and thanks that the kids here are amazing. Just as he was eating in peace, Ryuko arrives, and he stops eating. She sees the kid patting the dragon, and he gets terrified of his image getting shattered. So he pretends to be a sheep and makes a mess sound. She believes that she has mistaken a sheep for the dragon and leaves. After she leaves, he wonders if she is only saying such stuff to convince herself. His train of thoughts, however, gets interrupted as the sheep starts throwing themselves on the dragon. They snatch away the remaining grass from him and eat it up. The dragon wishes that the grass was all his. The skull demon inside him gets excited by his desires as it can now use it to manipulate him. A dark aura starts to appear around him, and the skull asks him to experience the darkness inside him. It tells him to let out his darkest desire and remember the darkest deed he has done so far. The dragon thinks back to what he did several thousand years ago, when he found a fruit tree that looked very delicious. The skull thinks that he did something truly evil, but all he did was picked up all the fruits for himself. The skull stares at him in shock, as he now goes to fight with the sheep to get back his grass. The skull can't believe that even after bringing his dark side, it's losing terribly to a bunch of sheep. The dragon collapses on the ground, tired after losing, and the little girl apologizes for not giving him enough grass. She then gets an idea that they should invite the Grey Dragon as well and have a grass party. He gets terrified that there is another dragon and fears for his dear life. The next day, the little kid takes the dragon to see the Grey Dragon that Ryuko had fun with, and since then Grey Dragon has been mumbling weird things. Actually, it is torn between being evil true to its nature or acting like a pet dragon, so that Ryuko won't bear the crap out of him in the name of playing. The dragon tells the little that Grey Dragon is actually part of its circus troupe and then asks her to leave, saying that he asks to discuss something with it. As she leaves, the dragon waves her goodbye, asking her to go home safely. After that, he goes to the Grey Dragon and asks about its encounter with Ryuko. He tells it that if she misbehaves, then he would scold her. However, when it starts approaching him, he panics. The Grey Dragon demands if he knows her and then hugs him, asking if he wants to play. The dragon hugs him back and agrees to play with him. However, while doing so, he accidentally transfers the skull demon back to the Grey Dragon, and as soon as it enters the body, it sees the Grey Dragon soul's been tamed. It scolds him for letting his mind be manipulated by a human. It then starts bringing out the darkness inside the gray dragon once again, and it wakes up with a jolt, its eyes turning back to red. Black aura surrounds its body once again, and he rises tall, declaring it to be the ruler of the sky. The dragon notices its change. As he sees it preparing for a large attack, it gathers shockwaves into his mouth to blast off the dragon. He cries for Ryuko's help, and in seconds she appears, kicking the gray dragon to the ground. She apologizes to the dragon for coming a mere 3 seconds, and the gray dragon gets up prepared to attack once again, and the skull demon inside realizes that Ryuko is the strongest here in this whole town, and that her power didn't come from the dragon, but was her own. The skull demon schemes on possessing her by provoking her to attack the gray dragon long enough to make contact and get hold of her body. It prepares to attack Ryuko with full strength and punches the ground where she is standing, but she jumps away with ease. The gray dragon repeatedly tries to attack her, but she dodges them all. She then takes it by the tail and spins it around, tossing it to the ground. But that contact was long enough for the skull demon to enter her body. The dragon goes to check K up on her, not realizing that she is now possessed. The skull demon inside her body demands that she show her dark side. However, she releases a large amount of blue aura from her body, and the skull demon can't touch her now. She then starts to suck the demon into her soul, and it wonders how the darkness in her heart is so strong that it devours everything else. The darkness from her heart is because she watched her father die in a cruel way when she was very little. Something starts happening to her body, and the dragon approaches her, asking if she is okay. She cries out in pain as darkness and the demon's black aura out of her body. It starts to spread and slowly engulf the whole area. Leah, witnessing this from far, approaches the city as soon as she can. The dragon gets up from the ground and asks what happened, saying that she almost killed him. But she is not there, and he notices the damage she has created. Water Saint appears before him and asks what is happening. Suddenly, the dragon is pulled up in the air by Ryuko's powers, but Leah arrives just in time and catches hold of him. The dragon asks her what's happening to Ryuko, and she tells him that she is becoming a full demon. She explains that she had such demonic powers inside her, but they were kept sealed because of her good nature. However, the skull demon has awakened all her demonic energy, and her powers are taking over her. Leah also adds that Ryuko will now act only on basic animalistic instinct, and that turns out to be her declaring to take the saint's life for disrespecting the dragon. The saint begs the dragon and Leah for their help and saves her from Ryuko. People start gathering around wondering what's happening. Ryuko sends a huge boulder their way, and Leah rushes to save these people. She comes in between and cuts down the boulder, saving them. She orders them to leave immediately, and the men agree, thinking that their saint is going to save them, but she is busy cowering in fear. The dragon thinks that at least Leah might save them. However, she straps running away, saying that they all do the same. The dragon follows her with the saints on its tail, quite literally, and asks Leah why she is running. She tells him that there is no way she can go against Ryuko, and this is a good chance for the dragon to get rid of her. The dragon is confused that although it's true, he actually doesn't want to leave her. He starts running away, thinking that Ryuko won't need him anyways, but the dragon stops in between and stares at Ryuko. He can't simply leave her and go. The water saint begs him to run while he can refuse and thinks back to her dedication to him. He starts walking towards her, as throws a huge blast towards him. The dragon thinks that for 5,000 years he had only protected himself, but this time he won't run away. The blast hits him, and he collapses on the ground, thinking how he didn't save Ryuko. After some time, Leah thrusts a sword next to him on the ground, asking him to get up. He gets up and starts feeling his body to check if he is dead. Leah tells him that he hasn't yet and points to Ryuko still in the air. Sheb tells him that Ryuko's instinct to kill is only becoming stronger. The water saint, hearing this, disappears into a puddle of water. The dragon asks if their only solution is to run, but Leah tells him it's not, thanks to him. She then grabs him by the tail and uses him as a bat to fend off Ryuko's attacks. This goes on for a while. The dragon is beaten to a pulp and collapses on the ground tired. Leah tells him that although Ryuko has transformed, she still thinks him as a great evil dragon. That's why her attacks have no effect on him. The dragon tells her to not use him as a shield even then and find a way to wake Ryuko. She tells him that she has a new plan and explains that Ryuko still has some humanity left in her heart because of him. So it's only up to him to break through the barrier and wake her up. She then spins him by his tails and throws at Ryuko. As she was about to launch another attack, the dragon goes past her attack and tries to reach her, but falls back to the ground. Guy Saint catches him with a bubble if water, and Leah tells that there is a flaw in the plan. The dragon scolds at her for sending him to his death, but she ignores him and tells that although her attacks won't have an effect on him, His current size means he will get thrown away by the wind around her. She tells that they should now rely on the saint to sacrifice herself so that they can save the city and themselves. The saint starts crying like a baby not wanting to die. Ryuko suddenly starts screaming even more and Leah observes her evil dragon transformation is starting to take place. The dragon is unable to see her like this and asks Leah if the plan will work if he grows back to its original size. She tells that it will and tells him that she needs some time to prepare. Until then he asks her to stop Ryuko. She summons her horse with a whistle and the dragon tells that it will do its best to stall Ryuko. He then turns to the saint and asks her to use her magic to take out the rejuvenating potion from him so that he can grow back to just original size. Ryuko sees this and thinks that the saint is harming the dragon. She goes furious and goes to attack her. Leah steps in between and stops her with her sword. Ryuko jumps back and attacks again. This goes on for some time and the dragon restores to its original size. He asks Leah to bring Ryuko near the gray dragon. She slowly lures Ryuko closer and closer, talking with her to distract her. As their fight continues, Ryuko jumps in the air, creating a huge blast, and Leah prepares to counter with all she can. The dragon prepares to launch himself using the gray dragon's wings as a catapult. He flies at her and uses his claws to accelerate the magic. The dragon breaks through her barrier and goes to hug her, asking her to wake up. Ryuko suddenly remembers her past. She and her dad were ostracized and treated badly by the villagers for being half-demons. Her dad comforted her, asking her to be strong, and one day she will meet someone who is kind to her despite her being half-demon. After some time Ryuko wakes up and sees the dragon looking over her, concerned. She immediately becomes happy upon seeing him and he tells her that she has caused a lot of damage to the city and must come with him to apologize to everyone. She happily agrees and goes with her great evil dragon.